I thank you so much for letting me record this.
Yeah.
The only thing is that I'm getting on my end, only the person that I mean, the view is should it be multi-speaker? What should we have
It
for?
depends how you want to record it. If you want to record it multi-speaker, then it'll put all the people on at the same time. Or if you
Yeah,
want just the speaker, so whoever's talking, that's how it'll record. That
no,
person.
I like multi-speaker. I've got it on multi-speaker.
Okay. Okay. So let's begin.
Okie dokie. I'm
Okay.
ready.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Grant Cameron, and this is part of one of the things I'm running now, the Legacy Files. And I have two guests. First, I'll introduce my co-host for today, Cindy Vol. Is that how you pronounce the last name?
Yeah, Cindy Vol.
So she is a newcomer and extremely knowledgeable. I was kind of surprised how much she knows about the UFO field. And she's going to be doing some interviews with me because, as I've pointed out before, many times I really don't like doing interviews. I don't mind being interviewed, but I'm always very nervous when I do interviews. And I'm good with a co-host. So I've got a number of people who help me with shows. And Cindy has a list of how many people have you got?
16.
16 people to interview. So we're going to be putting up a lot of stuff and trying to get a hold of a lot of major figures. And her YouTube channel will be up. What's it going to be called? You got a name for it yet?
Cindy Consciousness.
Cindy Consciousness. And is that a Y or an I?
Cindy.
Y. Okay, Cindy Consciousness. That's a good one. And my other guest today is a longtime friend of mine. I don't know how many years we've been working together.
100 years.
Yeah. We're old and we've been down the road, eh?
Oh, wow, yes.
Paula Harris from Boulder, Colorado. I actually call Boulder Consciousness, Colorado. It was the weirdest place when I first went there. It was like, yeah, I mean, we went with some people, and what do you want to do? And we want to go to uh, these groups where people are talking about spiritual stuff. And this is the first time I ever saw that they gathered food, where they were recycling food and stuff. And I went, wow. And people are all on bicycles, and it's like, wow, what a place. I call it Consciousness, Colorado. It's sort of an elevated and beautiful place, but a very expensive place to live. And Paula is there. She's been there for a number of years, and she's run a conference for many years and donated most of her money and most of her life to running these conferences and done the sort of the legwork in terms of going around the world to investigate some of the major cases and has actually done something that I acknowledge being important, and that is the 1950 contactees. She went back and went and interviewed these people, people around them, recorded these stories, and she's written a number of books. And she's with us today because I plan to write a book called The Top 10 Stories. I've been in since, as of last May, I was in the UFO field for 50 years. And I decided I was going to do a book on the top 10 stories that I've run into in 50 years. And Paula Harris has number two and number three on the list. So we're going to be talking about those two stories. And they are the stories that have been ignored by people. And I go like, how could you possibly ignore this story? You'll hear it. It's just an unbelievable story. And Paula doesn't really like talking about it, but it was something they called her. They wanted her to experience this. So we're going to talk about that, but we're going to start a little bit about how you and Cindy got together and this conference that you're having up at Colorado. So talk about that, Crestone, Colorado, beautiful place, and you're having an event here in a couple of months. So can you and Cindy sort of talk back and forth about how you guys met and what Cindy's going to be doing there and what's going to be happening? I think it's the theme is Asian UFOs or something, right?
No, the theme is Journey to Consciousness, but I'm having a guest who lectures in Japan, and he knows I'm passionate about Japan, and that's Julian Shamaroy, who lives in Paris but is very connected in Japan. He brings Japanese people who are interested in consciousness. His new book that's going to debut, Cindy, there is called Roadway to Oneness. So it's like a oneness consciousness. He's already there. He's done all the UFO, studying. He's done it all. He lives in Paris, but he finds his grounding in Japan. He speaks perfect Japanese. So
Wow.
I said, oh my God, let's get a Japanese tour to come to Crestone And then what we could do is join the two cultures. And then we have Cynthia Sue Larson, who's just amazing. She's got a PhD from Berkeley. She's talking about quantum physics. She's talking about the Mandela effect. And she is convinced that we're going into a new age of consciousness. She says it's this year. She said everything's going to change. So we've got these two spectacular speakers, August 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, and we have about 20 spots open. And we've decided to pair one Japanese, participant with one American, which would be incredible. And then out of the blue, Cindy calls me and she writes to me and she says, I'm Asian American. I basically would love to volunteer. Could I come and give you a hand? And I thought, oh my God, the ETs are really getting in there. They like this. They're sending me people. They're sending me these angels. So I said, sure. Are you kidding? And Cindy is Chinese and my a Chinese American and my actual uh assistant, and here's a picture of him, is Chinese American.
Wow.
And I mean Chinese. I'm sorry, he's living in China right now. And he came with me to Tokyo, and he was with me the whole time I was Tokyo. His name is Yingpei Li, and he is my student from the Exopolitics Institute. By the way, I teach classes for Michael Sala's Exopolitics Institute because I've got a master's degree in education. So Cindy, I'm so happy to have you. You are so cool. Yeah, she just, Grant, she knows everybody in the world. She's met met mostly all the people in the field. I do admit I'm not a regular person in the field. So my field is like over here and like I'm, over here going into Tokyo. So go ahead, Cindy, if you want to say a few words.
Well, my friends call me the connector, and I chase UFO contactees, experiencer, ufologists, researchers down. Basically said, can I take you out to lunch, dinner? I want to pick your brain. So that's how I get to know everybody. And of course, going to UFO conferences. But I really feel the reason why I am so passionate about this field is because I'm a starseed, period.
But
I mean,
you haven't had an experience you can remember though.
I do not recall being, I've never seen a UFO spaceship, and I have not been abducted or invited or experienced. And I'm speaking conscious level, perhaps energetically. Maybe I have, I don't know. But then the other thing is because I already know they exist, and I think I came from the Pleiades, therefore, I don't think I need any proof. But I feel that I incarnated in this timeline to help raise consciousness through love, kindness, and service to others.
Beautifully said. And my role is that I've said, as Paula knows, because Paula was in Mexico when they did the Booga Ball thing, and everybody they didn't bring her on stage.
I,
And
well, I'm a woman. I'm
yeah,
a woman.
so my role, part of my role is whenever a woman wants to try to sort of elevate themselves in the UFO field, I'm there because I basically say that the world has been run by men, left-brained men, and they're having urinating contests and fighting. And the only thing that's going to save us is if enough women take over the world and save us all. So anything that I find that a woman that's trying to do something in the UFO field, I'm there to help. And I think you actually run a conference one time in Texas, right? When with
Yeah.
Angela Joyner. Unfortunately, my
Yes.
good friend Angela has passed away with COVID, but you did a conference with all women, right?
Yeah, I did because I was very interested in the Stephenville case. And of course, that was one of the cases where the UFO was over a nuclear facility.
Yeah.
And I went down there to scout it out to talk to Steve Allen, who was the main witness. And I talked to, Leroy Gayton and Ricky Sorrells and all the other witnesses, because that's what I do. And I said, would you mind if we did an all woman conference? And then we got into the Huffington Post. Lee Spiegel writes about us in the Huffington Post. So I said, well, let's make this fun. Let's make all the women wear red evening gowns. So it was called, this is for the dinner. This is for the dinner.
Yeah.
We always have a gala dinner. That's where I got the idea of doing Laughlin color coordinated. I don't know what year you came, Grant, but you got a tie that was that color. We
Yes.
had black and white, we had purple, we had red. And I wanted to make it a fun event, even though I'm very serious, I'm very cerebral, um, I'm very intellectual. So we did all women, and Angela Joyner got an award because she lost her job
Yeah.
for reporting the Stephenville case.
Yeah.
She, like everybody else in the field, when they start getting into UFOs, like Paul Hellyer, who said to me, I'm getting married. I'm promising my wife I'm only doing this once. That was the end of that,
Yeah.
that you're only doing it once. Michael Sala invited him to Hawaii, and he went there. He said to his wife, "We're going on a honeymoon to Hawaii," and he went there. And a story that I haven't told is that when he was in the pool with his wife, I got a telephone call from the intelligence community
Wow.
who said, "We want to speak to him." And I
Wow.
said, "No, you can't." I was with Mary Rodwell at the time. We were sitting. I said, "Because he's on his honeymoon and he's with his wife. So what am I going to call him out of the pool?" And they were really, really not happy with me. They did eventually get to him because when he spoke here at SSC at the Scientific Society, I was by his side when he was told in America to keep it down.
Hmm.
So I was by his side and he was very nervous.
Yeah.
He didn't realize that he was asked not to, because of who he was. He's a former defense minister. He's like McNamara was with Kennedy.
Yeah.
He was a hero. The guy was a hero. And he just said, look, I was supposed to be there in Canada. I was supposed to be with Stanton Friedman and Richard Dolan, who was there. And who was there? Richard Dolan, Stanton Friedman, one other Steve Bassett. But I was in Italy, living in Italy, and I had an operation. I was in the hospital at the time and I couldn't go. So on my own money, I flew there to interview him, and it's on my YouTube channel. Incredible. I hired a cameraman. We had the CN Tower behind us, and I brought the story out to America because none of the guys that were sitting there did that. And I'm thinking to myself, I brought it out at the UFO conference in Laughlin with Bob Brown at the time. And I became very close friends with Paul Hellyer. And he invited me to his 90th birthday party. But I thought I was going to have fun. I thought, okay, this is fun. This is everybody's going to have a great time. And he says to me, no, I want you to give a 5 minute, he said, speech on why. He said, I'm interested in UFOs because he said all the other ministers and his cabinet ministers were there. They were all old, but they were there. All those guys were laughing at him.
Mhm.
So I said, in 5 minutes, I'd do it in 5 minutes. I just said, tell me what's funny about 1969 Maelstrom Air Force Base missile shutdown, one by one by one. I said, tell me what's funny when the codes go off in Russia during the Cold War. I said, don't you think that's a matter of national security? And don't you think you should look into this a little more? That's all it took. You couldn't hear a pin drop. And then Paul said to me, thank you so much. But again, I'm going to go back to the same thing, Cindy, when these people, and you'll find people like that say, I'm only going to do it once. I'm not going to get involved in this. And then it becomes contagious, like a
Yeah.
disease.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had that discussion. Cindy and I had that discussion. Maybe you can talk about that, Cindy. Is that Paula? You'll know that people will come to you and you're lecturing, and they'll say, "Oh, I'm so interested, but my husband and my kids don't care, and nobody's listening to me." And it's this idea where I said to Cindy, I say to everybody, get used to it. It's almost like it's there to keep you grounded. Is
Yeah.
almost nobody in the UFO field has support.
Yeah.
They have to keep it same as with near-death experiences, where you find with near-death experience, after people have near-death experience, the divorce rate is 75 to 80% because the people just sort of go to crazy with this kind of stuff. So Paul came in, and it was the same old thing, like we were talking about the Stephenville thing with Angela Joyner. I mean, her husband really wasn't into it. He supported her and stuff like that. But she had this experience and wrote about it and ended up losing her job. And she went down the rabbit hole and she did a podcast and stuff like that. And it grips you, but you sort of wonder, why is everybody in the world not paying attention?
Well, I think we are what Dolores Cannon had talked about, the three waves.
Yeah.
What one of them, we chose to come here to help raise consciousness, to bring peace, enlightenment to the planet, and hopefully in time to join our brothers and sisters out in the galaxy. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting road, but sometimes a lonely road. But it's good that you have, like Paula will know, that you have friends anywhere in the world. You can go almost anywhere in the world and you know people. They know you well. Yeah, you have this bond, and you'll see when you have the experiencer meetings at the big conferences, and you would have them as well, Paula. You'd have the experiencer meetings in the morning, and I went to them, and that's where people want to go because they get to tell their story without people laughing at them. And
yeah,
all the other people in the room are all experiencers, and they know what's going on. And there's people crying, and they're telling their story and stuff like that. So it's an important thing, and it's you can see if you're in it that it is an extremely important story for the world. And I always look back that what more could you ask for? I mean, if you have another life coming up, are you going to have one as valuable as this one, where you got to play this sort of a game? Or it just, like, what other life could you possibly ask for than what we've had, to be sort of in the, I call it the Super Bowl of all stories. I mean, you're in the stadium, you're playing, you don't know what position you're playing, but you're in this super magnificent game, and you're trying to make the world a better place by sharing this message. And message, as Paula, you pointed out, with this book that this Chinese guy had written. It's all about oneness. It's about the thing that it's all one thing, and consciousness is primary. And these are messages that we understand,
yeah,
and hopefully the women will get it out, because it's a female message. It's the right brain. It's not the left brain. The left brain is into me versus you separation. It's what I get. There's no, everything's separate. There's no, consciousness is just an epiphenomenon of the brain. It's all, you got to be rational, analytical. It's all that left brain stuff that has gotten us into the mess that we're in right now. And hopefully there's enough women that come forward in the UFO field and everywhere else to bail us out.
Yeah,
yeah.
but I also look at it as a Christian message. It's also a spiritual
Yeah.
message. I mean, it's love your neighbor. It's don't do to somebody else what you don't want to be done to you. And it's, to me, it's so simple, and so it's logical. It's logical. If everybody was nice to everybody else, and the only time that ever happens, Grant, unfortunately, is if we have a tsunami or an earthquake, or somebody bombs the country, and then
Yeah.
everybody comes together. And I always say to people, let's not do it that way. Let's not wait till some catastrophe comes and then you have to come together because you have to give each other food. You have to take care of each other's kids. That's not the way we should be doing anything. I mean, that's not even logical. And I'm very logical. But what I'm thinking is, and I just did a podcast on the friendship case. The message from the ETs in 1956 was "Unite, unite, 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 unite."
Yeah.
This is 1956 in Pescara, Italy, which is during the Cold War. Well, I happen to be one of the people that went, took a hammer and got a piece of the Berlin Wall. I happened to be in Berlin, and when that wall came down, I have a piece of it. Um, Everything changes. So even politically, the way it is today, it's not going to be like that 25 years from now. And so everybody gets stuck in the present, and they don't understand that we can create a future. But it has to start now. You have to start visualizing how you want it to be. You can't just say peace on earth. You gotta make a plan. You gotta make a plan. So when I do lectures, and I'd love to speak at Rice University where my stuff is, but they haven't invited me to speak there yet. I'd like to say to them, this is not ufology. This is not paranormal. This is not silliness. These things happen. These events happened, whether they be Travis Walton or they be Pescara or they be Ricardo Gonzalez. or would they be cestopods in the Chilca Desert? These things happen. This is the history of planet Earth. If you look at it as historical, like an academic subject, this is history. This is not ufology.
Yeah.
I'm not a ufologist. I'm an investigative journalist. That and people, have had experiences, and you have to take down all of this history because it can't get lost. It must be for our children and our children's children's children. And you can see that from the telepathy tapes. Everybody's going and thinking, oh, well, that's, but one little story I wanted to tell you is I happened to meet Bridie Murphy because her niece was in my class by accident, by coincidence, when I was
Explain who
teaching
she is
science.
first.
Yeah, and I basically, her niece was in my class, in my science fiction class, and her niece said, my aunt wants to meet you. And I
Wow.
said, who's your aunt? And she said, Bridie Murphy. And here's Paula, who's never heard of reincarnation.
Yeah.
I go to her house for dinner, and I go, yeah, I'm an English teacher. Like way back when I was so naive, I was so out of it. And she says to me, Paula, she said, I had bad allergies. And I think it was Maury Bernstein that wrote the book, put me under hypnosis. And when he put me under hypnosis to get rid of the allergies, here I am speaking in a Spanish brogue, and they could verify everything I said, including where I lived, where I'm buried. And I was even able to talk about what happened when I passed over. Now, she gave me a record, an actual vinyl record of her, what do you call it, being hypnotized.
Yeah.
And if you could find that, she's speaking in a Spanish brogue, and it's so interesting. And she said, when they woke me up, she said, I didn't remember anything I said, but she said, they woke me up, she said, I was the first case of reincarnation. She said, I was on all the early talk shows. She said she even met Hynek. She said she became very famous. And the name of the book for people that want it is The Search for Bridie Murphy. But, here I am sitting at dinner with her going, what does this have to do with ufology? So here I am in 2025, getting some answers.
Yeah. And you've met some of the big ones, same as Cindy has met some of the big names in ufology. But you've had with John Mack and with all, and you've traveled to different countries, and you write an article. You write for an Italian magazine. You've been everywhere and done all sorts of exciting things. And you're big with the. We're going to talk today about the events at Mount Shasta. You've been big with the South American groups, with
Yeah,
the fact that they've changed everything in terms of the attitude, that their attitude is not the nuts and bolts, let's get to technology, shoot them down, all this kind of stuff. It's a completely different world that you sort of drag me into with Mount Shasta. And when I come down to it, in 50 years, the Mount Shasta stories are the top three stories in 50 years. There's nothing even comes close to the events that you were involved with, and in 2020, it's just a different world, but it's a different world in terms of attitude, the way they see it. That there's no grays, there's no reptilians, there's no mantids, there's none of that kind of stuff. It's a completely different attitude, and the experiences they have are all positive. And the beings that they're dealing with almost look like they jumped out of the Bible, and just fascinating stories. Talk a little bit about your work with the South American people as well.
Okay, well, you know that I don't talk about it very much because I'm so cut and dry data based that
Yeah,
I go, okay, well, you want strangeness, man? I'll tell you strange stuff. Basically, I went when I was studying the 50s, and Howard Menger and Orfeo Angelucci and Van Tassel and especially Adamski.
yeah,
Um, I realized that after 63, after 1963 and Betty and Barney Hale, it all became abduction, abduction, abduction. And I personally don't think you need 40 years of abduction. You'd be a really stupid race if you keep doing it. You can get DNA off of glass. You don't need to get hybrid. You can make hybrids. I mean, so I realized this was being manipulated to keep the UFO field in fear. When people come up to me and go, "Oh, I've been abducted," I said, "No, you've been contacted." That's totally different
Yeah.
vocabulary. All right. So then I said, well, where did these human type beings go? It were these guys that look Venusian with the blonde hair, and where they go? Well, where they went was in 1970, 72 to the Chilca Desert to the group that was led by Sisto Paz Wells, and he's Peruvian. He's from Peru. And how they had that happen is they would do, and you've been present, they do about 2 hours of mantras like and they just quiet the mind. Nobody has a party and is drinking beer and is eating popcorn.
Yeah.
They do 2 hours. They do 2 hours of and I didn't realize it because it happened to me. They also fasted. They didn't. They don't eat a lot because it interferes with your concentration.
But didn't you, I thought you snuck an apple in there. Didn't you tell us to
I
get?
had one apple. I cut it into 16 pieces. Yeah, I had to. Well, I didn't know I had a fast.
How long do they fast?
3 days.
3 days, okay.
Yeah, they were just drinking matcha, and that's it. I mean, they weren't eating anything. And I think now they do something on the last day. But when I went to Shasta to meet Ricardo Gonzalez, who told me he was in Mongolia. Mongolia's near China.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Right.
he's texting me and he's saying, Antarel wants to meet you. I'm thinking this guy just wants publicity.
Okay,
This is
explain who
ridiculous.
he is for people and who
Yeah.
Antarel is.
Well, Antarel was the main contact for Ricardo Gonzalez. Ricardo met Antarel in the Chilca Desert, and I actually have the video of my standing right where Antarel walked up to Ricardo, who was camping with two other people. And Ricardo gets his messages from automatic writing. The hand
Yeah,
goes by itself,
yeah.
in a notebook. You must have seen him go there. His hand just goes
It was
all
amazing. It
over
was
the
amazing.
place.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw that.
And he's one of the only contactees that gets the exact time they land, the exact time you're going to see them. He gets the time if they decide to come, he gets the exact time, so you're not waiting there all night. But I had done a great interview with him, and he's the only one of the five South Americans that had read my book too, in Spanish. And so he was in Mongolia, and he texted me and he said, Antarel wants to meet you. Antarel is the being, the 10-foot tall being that met him in the Chilca Desert, and basically said to him, we come from planet Apu. We are your ancestors, but they were time travelers because they said that something had happened on the planet years ago and they had to take the kids off the earth. And if you want to know, the book that's in is called The Ark. It may still be available on Amazon. The Ark by Ricardo Gonzalez. And he said, we and it was in the Atacama Desert. There's a place called Alma, and in Quechua it means liftoff. And they had I've been there too. I mean, I went to all the places. I even went to the mountain where they have their base, which is in Yungay, and the mountain is called Ahuascaran, and they have a base in there. And when I was at the bed and breakfast, and this lady was making sandwiches, and I could see the mountain, I said to her, "Have you ever seen the people in that mountain?" She said, "Yes, they came to speak to my children when they were 10 years old."
What countries are that in?
Chile.
Chile. Okay.
Hmm.
Oh no, I'm sorry, Peru. Young
Sure.
guys in Peru.
Yeah.
Young guys in Peru. Because I did a trip to Peru to all these places. Young guy is in Peru. Young guy is where the Apunians told Vlado Kapitanovich, the Russian, at the hydraulic plant that there was going to be an earthquake to take the 45,000 people that were going to die, take them out of that city because the mountain was going to fall. And of course, at that time, Vlado Kapitanovich went to the authorities and said, these people came to me in spacesuits, okay? And he said, you got to move the people. There's going to be an earthquake. Of course, they didn't move the people. The earthquake happened, and I walked over 45,000 people's bodies because they couldn't even bury them. They just threw dirt over them. And when I was walking over the place in Yungay, I knew the people were underneath and that this had happened. This was real. The Apunians had told them they're time travelers, so they know the future. And this is how it started with Ricardo. So I studied the case. And then later I retraced the steps. But for this woman to turn around to me and then continue making sandwiches and just, no, she just said, look, they came to speak to my kids, the Space Brothers. Everybody I spoke to, yeah, the Space Brothers, they didn't say the reptilians, the grays we were taking, we were scared. No, they are one. The Latin American people are one and and in unison with the Space Brother movement, the Space Brothers. So I could see where, the contacts from the 50s would go down to Latin America.
Yeah.
It's normal down there. Everything's normal. It's fine.
It's much
Everybody's
more religious based, like in terms of they're all just ordinary people that are,
Yeah.
and
And not
a
only
lot of Roman
that,
Catholic.
but I always tell people the only connection you can have with it, if an extraterrestrial grant comes into your office right now, the only connection you're ever going to have with him is a heart connection
Yeah.
because he's intellectually on a different evolved plane than we will ever be. So if you have a heart and he has a heart, you're alive, he's alive at that minute. That's the only connection you can have. And the Latin Americans have the biggest hearts. I mean, they're incredible.
Yeah.
They have big hearts. So what had happened is that I did the research down there later, but you want me to get to the contact. Well,
Yeah.
then Ricardo goes to Malaga, which is in Spain. I've been to Malaga. It's a resort town, and he says, Paula, I'll pay for everything, but you got to be there. And so I flew in. I didn't realize we were camping. They gave me a one-man tent. Uh, a lady came over with a quilt. I was dying of cold, and there were chemical toilets, which are not. And I didn't know that later on I would be at about 10 different camping sites in my future with chemical toilets. And I didn't know what to expect. So as I told you, I was just watching. I couldn't speak the language, so they gave me an Italian um, interpreter, Corina, who told me everything that was going on in Italian. And then the last night, I remember I couldn't wait to get out of there because I was starving. And then I said, these people are beautiful people, but I'm so hungry. And I've done it, and it's great. But the message was that if there was a flyover on Sunday night at 8:30, Antarel would be in the forest. So I didn't even remember. I just was getting ready to go. It's like, and then I'm next to Fernando, and I see on because they have a night screening, a big night screening. What do you call it? Monitor. And I saw the ship. I saw the spaceship. I saw the thing come in, and I said, "Oh, isn't that interesting?" And then I thought, now I can go, but. Ricardo came and he knelt down next to me and he said, Antarel is in the forest. He said, my people, and you interviewed Raimundo and the people that saw him.
Yeah.
You interviewed them personally because you went up to him and
Yeah,
interviewed them.
you helped me. But Ramondo made a statement like you talked about how normal it was. Remember, I asked him, I said, oh, he said, well, I've seen him before. And I said, what do you mean you've seen him before? How many times you seen him? He said, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. And it's like, what? It's like, because they follow, these people follow Ricardo around to different
They follow
events.
him around and so he said, can you handle it? It reminded me of what Colonel Corso said when he met the
Yeah.
ET in at White Sands, and he said, what do you have to offer me? and the ET said, "A new world if you can handle it." Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah, oh
Those
yeah, yeah.
words.
But
So
so
I
now
had
you're pretty frightened when once it's for real. Like he's pulling you out of the group, and they
oh
only
yeah,
take 7 people, right? And everybody else is meditating, trying to keep the energy
the
up.
vibration up. They had to
Yeah.
keep the vibration up. Yeah, no, and that was all women, and I didn't understand a word they were saying. And he told me that his wife was there already with Corina, my interpreter. That I had to hold Mercedes, and you interviewed her, Mercedes,
Yeah.
Siapa's hand. So the three of us walked down slowly, and we couldn't use flashlights, and I was tripping all the way down the hill, and
There's a
but
lot. That's a long walk across that field.
it is. And he said I had to wait until the Zendra came up, but I could see the Zendra. A Zendra
Okay.
is a
Yeah.
mist. It comes up from the it comes up from the bottom, and it was coming up like a mist of some kind. And he said to stand in that. And I was holding their hands. As long as I held their hands, I was fine. As long as I got a human, I'm fine. But
Yeah.
the minute you get down there, he says, you got to let go of Mercedes' hand because you'll all have different experiences. And I didn't know what he was talking about. I just went down there totally confused. I let go of Mercedes' hand. I looked straight ahead of me at Soul. I remember that was the first thing. Soul had a white jacket on. She was walking towards a 10-foot tall man standing next to a tree, and she had her hands out like this. And I could hear Ricardo scream, "Don't touch him." Well, those were my first thinking when I saw her too. He's 10 foot. I don't know what part of him she would have gotten to anyway. But the thing is, my thoughts were as a human, don't touch him. And then she stopped, and then I remember he just was speaking to me in a language I didn't understand at all, period. And then I was trying to figure out what to do. Now, what to do means when you're looking at a giant in a forest when it's dark and he is speaking. He had on, but this time he had on a hoodie. He had a hoodie like he had just come out of a gym, and he had boots on. And I don't know if he was on the ground. I can't tell you that because for 3 minutes he spoke in this language they told me later was Irdin, Irdin, and Soul sings in that language. And at the very end, like a robot. So I didn't know if he was a robot. He said, "Thank you." He turned around one fell swoop and walked back into the forest. And that was my experience. So when I went to Ricardo, I said, "I think I'm going crazy." I think he said, "Thank you." And Ricardo said, he said, "Thank you for the future, not the past, Paula." He said, he's saying, "Thank you for all the stuff you're going to do." This was 2014. So you know how much work I've done since 2014 in Latin America.
Mhm.
So
And can you
what
explain a
was
little bit more about the Zendra? Who was in the Zendra? Because there's 7 people, right? And then
no,
did you?
no, 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 not that time. No, there was only one Zendra when I went down the first time, and there was only me, Mercedes, and Suyapa, and
Oh,
that's it.
okay.
I
Now,
have a question. So the
Soul was close to him. She was on his right. She was walking over to him, and Karina was in front of me. They were down there already.
And where was Ricardo? He was standing outside the
He
Zendra,
wasn't allowed to go. None of the guys were allowed
but
to
he
go.
but he could see Sol, who's his wife,
Yeah,
right?
because she had a white jacket, she had a white pocket. She was
When he
like,
said don't, he must have been seeing it because he was saying don't touch
yeah,
Antarel.
he saw from the hill that she was walking towards him because her jacket was iridescent. And he just screamed at her, and that was my thought too. Don't touch him.
Yeah.
Don't touch him. You
Okay.
know,
And
and what people need to understand, because this really did happen, is that I suffered heavy PTSD after that. That was not that my whole reality shattered. You cannot think you're going to go shake hands and have coffee unless you're Michelle Zerger in Tokyo with an ET. I mean, it doesn't work that way. And Cindy, did you have a question?
Yeah, so I for the audience, I when you said the Xandra mist, is that coming from Earth? Or is it
from
just
where your feet are standing. And I had done some interviews with Claudio Vella and different people who told me that when they were in the Chilca Desert, they had to wait for the dome. He said it was dome shaped Zendra to come up before. And he said they would both go. The ET would go in there, the human ET, and the human being would go in there because he said they could breathe the same air. And then he also told me when he would walk into the Zendra because it was a dome. And I and people want to read this. It's in my book, All the Above and Beyond. I have it here. It's Claudio Vella's interview. All five Latin Americans are talking to me, and he said that he would feel nauseous and he didn't feel well when he would walk in. But if you want word for word what the Latin Americans said to me, read the book All the Above and Beyond, because I interviewed like six or seven of them. I had like what's his name, Mustacio Martins. He went under Lake Titicaca in Bolivia, and he met with them there, the great, what he calls the Great White Brotherhood. These people aren't lying. I mean,
Mhm.
if you see Martens's picture, UFOs are over his head during the day, the whole time he's speaking, and I've got all his photos. I think whoever the contactees are from Latin America are successful because they're on a spiritual level.
Yeah. Was there other beings with him or just Antarel? Because there was the reports, maybe it was
So that was
50.
the second time. That was
So
the
he was by
second
himself
time.
the first year. I didn't realize
That
that.
was the second time. The second time I saw Antarel and two other guys in what I call white bicycle suits and as a hologram. And the stories were crazy there because the other guys were way apart, way over there. They saw the tube come down and they say they saw their beings. I was with Ricardo himself, and it was Antarel who was trying to talk to me and his two twins, what I call twins. I mean, they all look alike. They looked alike to me, and it was a hologram. It was not physical. I could tell the difference because I could see the trees through them, and they were ribboning through the trees. They were like a ribbon, and so I was with Ricardo when that happened, and they were not successful in talking to me because I had gone through PTSD the first time. And so people need to understand that I couldn't calm down. I was sweating, I was fearful. Ricardo kept telling me to close my eyes. I said, not on your life. And I and Antarel was not happy. I could tell because he was the one in the middle and he had this very furrowed, his his eyebrows just went together like you stupid person. It's like you about what he did, and my life has been this way. What he did was when I went to the hotel in Reno, Nevada, my alarm clock went off every hour on the hour on its own after I shut it off, and one sentence came into my brain, and that was telepathic, and it said, "If you will lead, we will match your efforts."
Yeah.
So that's all they were trying to tell me, but I couldn't do it. And people need to understand it is not that easy. It is not a human. So, I mean, it is a human, but I mean,
yeah.
I didn't explain it. If they're evolved people, they do it differently. He wasn't there to say, "Hi, how are you? Let's have a cup of coffee." He was there to give me one sentence saying, "Will you take on this responsibility? We will help you. If you don't want to do it, we're going home." And I got the "we're going home" part. Okay, so this is not a joke. If we don't want an intervention or anything, that's why I went to Howard Menger's house in 2023, where Val Thor was sitting. And all of us that were there, including David Kilbotzer, and there was, my other people that work with me, we put our hands on the ground where Val Thor was sitting because we have photos of him and said, "Hey, we're in the Cold War again. You want to help us or what?" We're in the Cold War. Exactly. Russia's the enemy. Exactly. Nuclear threat. Exactly. We're back in 1963, which is the stupidest, most inane thing for humanity to do. And we've already been through that once. What do you think they're thinking when they're looking at this? when they're looking at our news reports. I mean, did you ever see the movie The Abyss with underwater? And I remember Ed Harris looking at the being, and they show the news reports, and, and he goes, "You're watching our news?" And 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 the being goes, "Yeah." And so then Ed Harris, and it's the same thing. Ed Harris says, "Well, is there hope?" And the being says, "Yes."
So, couple questions. When you say you're speaking to the ET, I forget his name. Is it
Antarel.
Antarel? So is it telepathy, or is it actually verbal like you and I are speaking? Or is
The
it?
first time it was verbal because it echoed through. I thought he had a bullhorn, and I never spoke to him. I just listened. I never, what do you say? I mean, what do you say? So I just listened. The second time it was in my sleep when he said, if you will, it was telepathy. It was a thought in my brain while I was sleeping. And they had to wait till I was sleeping because there's no way that you could get to me because when you're in that much of a fear mode, they and people I've spoken to, even Michael Wolf, when I did the case, Michael Wolf sent his ETs into the Ramada Inn when I was doing that case, and I was with a colleague, and it scared the living daylight out of us. And I said to Michael Wolf, "Why did you do that?" And he said, "Because if you're terrified, they will go away." And so I understood that. I had experiences covering other stories, and had always, and it's not fear because I think there's anything wrong. It's you have to understand your reality is shattered. Everything you believe is not what it is.
Well, I wish they'd come visit me because I have no fear. But with that being said, I want to show the audience.
No, wait.
No?
I'll show you. Adriano, that was with me, always had no fear. He was working in my office in Rome. He couldn't wait. He was crying all night, crying.
Who is that?
Fear. Adriano Forgione. He owns the magazine now. The magazine. I just did a story for them on the Bugosphere. He's now in his 40s. He was in his 20s, crying all night. Went back to bed with all the lights on. He
was there.
wanted to have contact. He wanted to have contact. And I'm going, I was confused. My reaction is confusion. I just go, I get confused. I don't know what to do. You were showing a book, Cindy. I'm sorry.
Yes. Oh, no, it's okay. So this book is by Craig Campapazio.
Oh, no, I don't want to make any comments on that.
Okay,
No,
these are the-
yes, because he's taking it from other sources.
oh, but are these the opinions?
Yeah, those are the
That's
opinions.
Antarel on the top,
And that's Ivica. Yeah, that's Ivica on the bottom.
the commander of the craft.
She is his direct descendant. Ivica, she's a woman.
Yeah.
She's a woman. And the thing with her is that now this is Chile, this is not Peru. I was in the Atacama Desert with Ricardo when we did in the Valley of the Moon when Ivica came, and he went on the sand dune to meet her, and the ship stopped over our heads for at least 45 minutes. And it was just a big ship. I mean, we had to keep doing because we had to keep that vibration up. He came back crying that he had met her physically. He doesn't bring people with him anymore. When in 2014, that was a once in a lifetime, and the second time the hologram was 2015. He doesn't bring people with him as much anymore. She told him that climate change was going to really be a problem for us, and that we were going to have serious problems with water. And Ivica mentioned the Texas area, all that area. So they already knew. I think I was in the Atacama Desert with him when he met Ivica in the sand dunes. If I had to guess, it was 2021. I can't do it anymore because I can't camp. anymore. It's too hard on me,
So,
and I can't
so,
do it
so
anymore.
tell Cindy the story. Like in 2014, you go there, your world is shattered. In 2015, you get the instruction you need to come back, Antarel, and you fight this. So talk about all the paranormal stuff that happened to force you to come the second, because you weren't going the second
No,
year.
I wasn't going. No, the thing is, Cindy, in your life, when you're thinking something or you're doing something, do you have weird stuff happen in your house?
No.
Oh.
Paula had lots. She's going to
Well, the
describe it.
problem is they came back. Ricardo and his group came back, and they went to Crestone. The Crestone, because Ricardo spoke in Crestone for at least 4 years. He did lectures. Crestone is a very special place, and they begged me to go back because they said that when he was speaking that language, it was encoded, and they needed the message. And I said no, I'm not going back. It's like, oh, that's okay. I had, all I need. But then I was with Tom Hamlin, who works with me, and Tom Hamlin was in Castle Rock, and his and my phone called his phone when it was on the table. It dialed it by itself.
Mhm.
Now, don't be surprised if after you talk to me and Grant, stuff happens, okay?
Okay.
Because that is the only way the paranormal, what we call a paranormal, is the language of ETs. So my phone called his phone, and I had been swimming, and when you use the right side of the left side of your brain to swim, I left the right side open, and it kept saying, "Go back to Shasta, go back to Shasta." So when the phone dialed Tom, I told him I had been swimming, and I said, "Look, I keep getting that I have to go back. I don't want to go back." He said, "I'll drive you back in 24 hours." So we got in a car and drove across country to Mount Shasta in 24 hours. We got to Ricardo. He was absolutely shocked. And that's when the holograph stuff happened. It was the
But
second meeting.
his phone was phoning your phone as well. I mean,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when I was doing, what do you call it? When I was doing Giant Rock, and by the way, Craig Campobasso was with us down there. David Garcia's phone dialed me 17 times.
Wow.
On its own, on its own, on its own. And Dave kept saying, "Are you calling me?" And I said, "No." I said, he said, "But the phone," he said, "Paula, there's 17 times." But after I had had the experience in Shasta, my landline would do Morse code. It would do Morse code. It would go beep, 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 beep. And then I'll tell this very last story. This is the very last story. 2 years ago, I went back to Shasta with my friend Jeff Mahala. I went to the tree where Antarel was standing, and it had been hit by lightning and broken in 3 places.
All right.
So I took pictures, Grant, if you want it,
Yeah.
because I took
Because you took me
photos.
to the tree. I know which tree you're talking about.
Yeah, it's broken. It broke. So Jeff said, "Why don't you go up and touch it?" And I did. And the message I got was, "You got to go your own way." But then I said, "Jeff, you go touch it." And Jeff touched it, and it said, "Caution, emergency, emergency, caution."
Wow.
Hmm.
It said, I mean, it didn't say that. That's the message from hugging the tree or the piece of the
Yeah.
tree. So we get home, and what happens is he's got a brand new house, and his smoke alarms all go off. I've got a house that all the smoke alarms are new, all three of them, and my smoke alarms go off too. And I have to call somebody. It cost me $700 to replace them
Wow.
because I couldn't shut off the current because they wouldn't stop ringing. So I went through a whole night with the smoke alarms ringing. So if the message that Jeff got was caution, be careful, and I got go your own way. I mean, they do the weirdest things. It cost me money though, so I'm not too happy about it
Yeah.
because it's brand new. These are brand new smoke alarms. And there was no smoke, but it was an example of how you get a message. It could be on TV, it could be a TV show, it could be on the wrapper of a candy bar, it could be, I don't even know how to say it, but Grant, you should do a whole show on paranormal messages. It could be on a wonton, it could be on anything. It could be anywhere, or somebody shows up in your life like Cindy. Yeah, I was shocked when Cindy showed up. I thought, holy moly! I watched 3 hours of Chinese drama, and I know Wang Yibo, and I know all the singers in China, and I'm 100% involved in Japan. I love. So Cindy shows up. So then I go, who's orchestrating this? I always ask who the puppet master is,
Yeah.
because me, like Jacques Vallée, believes we could be in a simulation.
Yeah. You have to tell the other story that you got the phone message that I actually got a message from Mark Leon. I don't know if you dealt with Mark Leon. He was financing what's the guy that's in north of Denver there that had the big him and his wife and she left him
Oh
and
no, Stan Romanek
Dan
case.
Romanek, yeah. Like he was getting these messages from what was the name of the
Oh, Audrey, the phone call.
Audrey, tell the
Yeah,
Audrey when I was
yeah,
collecting these things, and then I heard that you got an Audrey phone call. Tell me that
yeah.
story.
Well, no, yeah, but I wonder how in the world they're doing it, because they have access to technology.
Yeah,
So they can interrupt your phone call. And they can, and I will vouch for the Stan Romanek case. I will. I was there. I brought Swiss television to film him, and the faucet goes on full blast. Okay,
yeah,
so he had more paranormal stuff going on there than you could
yeah.
even imagine.
But the Audrey thing, I think there was like 85 messages or
Oh
something.
yeah,
When I heard that
because
you got one,
Audrey,
then
I
I
think.
thought, well, they can't be making up because Paula got one as well. You
Yeah,
went to
no, I got
Crestone
no.
with,
Audrey, I don't know who Audrey is, but Audrey,
but you got
but
the
you
phone
got to
call
look
from
at.
the Airbnb at when you went with Greer to Crestone. And remember, you said, "Oh, I'd like to go," and then you got the phone call, and they said, "Don't worry, you'll go back." Don't you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I no, there's so many. It's so, but you don't,
you're
you
talking to
don't.
aliens all the time.
But when you live in the paranormal, and you of all people, Grant,
Oh, I've had sure.
come
I
on,
I
Grant,
got the
come
message from
on,
Antarel as
Grant.
well on Desta's cell phone. We know Grant's coming to the mountain. There's going to be a program sighting Saturday night, and there was. And so yeah, that's why I'm so interested in the story because when I went there, it was the same thing, and I thought they would open a Zendra, which is like a portal in the English language, like a portal. And I didn't even really want to go. I was saying to Desta and Katerina, I said, "Do you guys want to go in? I really don't want to go in. I'm not really that interested in that." But it was kind of weird when you get a phone call, and that's why I said to Desta, I said, "Get the message. What's the exact message?" It's because he wanted me to put on Facebook, and it was coming through Ricardo, but it was just kind of weird when you get a message on a cell phone. It says, "Oh, the alien knows you're coming to the mountain." And it's like, what?
No, it invited it. It told you actually. Antarel told you there would be a flyover at 9:35.
9:33.
And
Yeah,
I sat behind you and watched it flash right over you. And
yeah.
you said, "But isn't he going to land?" I said, "No,
Yeah,
no."
from what I'd seen in '75, it was nothing. But then the thing started after the seven flashes or whatever over my head. That's when Soul put on the cell phone and he pulled out that little book and he started that automatic writing. That's when I said to Desta, I said, "Oh, why didn't I bring my camera? Because I had a film camera." I said, "Why didn't I bring my camera to the thing? I could have filmed this." And he's going in there, and then he's going sideways up the page, and his hand is just and then he
Yeah,
stops,
he
closes
goes,
the book, and then he opens the book again. He starts writing again, and he got the message from Antarel, and then one from Mavika, and that's when they said in the message, Grant doesn't need to see; he already knows, which is exactly. I have no interest in seeing
"No,
UFOs.
you don't need to go through that."
Yeah, so that's what the message. And it meant a lot to me when they said Grant doesn't need to see; he already knows. Because I was kind of disappointed. I go, "That's it? I thought they were going to open a Zendra." It's like, and
Yeah,
people they
well,
actually got upset with
yeah.
me because I was talking about Zendras, and they said, "Quit talking about them." It's just like you're making it sound like they open one every time, and they don't.
No, but I didn't even tell you all of it, because it scared the living daylights out of me when they came to beg me to go back in 2015. Mercedes said, she said, "Paul, I turned to the left and you weren't there." Well, that doesn't make me feel too good, okay? I
Yeah,
said, "Yes, I was."
Yeah.
and we started to fight. And she said, no, Paula. She said, for a solid, she said, minute, you were not there. So how can you explain that?
Yeah.
And I don't even want to try because that's not my job.
Yeah.
My job is to collect the data, to raise consciousness, not to worry about where I went in that 1 minute
Yeah.
that she couldn't
So
see me.
you could see her, but she couldn't see
I
you.
wasn't looking at her. I was looking at Antarel. We weren't even together then because I had to let go of her hand.
Hmm.
Remember, I had to let go of her hand.
Yeah. So
So if she's telling the truth, and I keep saying, "Are you telling the truth?" And she said yes.
Yeah.
So I don't want to argue about whether I was there or not because I didn't feel like I went anywhere. But if she's telling the truth, I disappeared for that minute,
Yeah.
and it's hard
Yeah.
because I don't want to address that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But there was a lots of weird stuff going on. There was those little guys with the little iPad things. Do you see those
That's
guys?
only one witness, and I don't really think no, there were little
Oh, you
guys.
didn't see the little guys that were behind the trees? No? Okay.
I saw little guys. I saw little what if I had to ask what they were gnomes.
Yeah.
Gnomes like gnomes. I mean like little what do you call it? Gnomes.
Yeah.
How do you call them
Yeah,
gnomes?
gnomes. Yeah,
No.
you
So
know.
what I think happened is when that tube and Tom, you talked to Tom Hamlin who saw the tube come down from the sky. I think when and he wasn't sitting near us, he was sitting in the sandflags.
Yeah, he had taken the chair because they took a chair
Yeah, he took
because
my
you
chair
were
that
going to collapse. So they took your chair
yeah, I
and then he
know.
sat, you went into the Zendra and he sat on the chair and watched.
He watched, he felt he wasn't invited, neither was that other person,
Yeah.
actually. You
Yeah.
have to be invited. And so what happened, I think, is when you have a tube coming down. This also happened in Sardinia. I can talk about this. A tube coming down, it opens a portal
Yeah.
and everything comes out, including elementals, gnomes, uh, but if there's no reason for them to be there, what you got was you saw for 1 minute another reality. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like the tube comes down. For 1 minute, you're seeing another reality. They're not interacting with you. They have no reason to. So you got nothing. You can interpret it what you want. They don't walk around with iPads. Come on. And the thing is, this happened also in Sardinia when Luigi, I did the case in for Gaia when I brought Regina Meredith for the Giants. And by the way, the giant bone that we got is being examined by Jaime Maussan in Mexico City as we speak. Luigi told me he wanted me to come back alone. I said, why? He said, because at night the tube comes down and he said he saw the giants. So that I'm thinking, okay, this is Sardinia. This is Dolia Nova in Sardinia. This guy is a farmer. He sees them at night. They come through a light tube from the sky. In fact, he even gave me a picture. I did just did the show Mexico with the photo of the tube, the light tube, and what that is, I think, is the opening up of another dimension for a few
Portal?
minutes. For a few minutes, you know. And I don't think they do it for everybody, Grant. I think they do
No.
it for certain people that can vibrate at that
Yeah.
vibration. You know what I mean? If you vibrate, they're not going to do it for the guy off the street. They're not going to do it for your cousin. They're going to do it. If you vibrate at a certain vibration, you're going to attract ghosts or whatever, ETs or whatever, because that is the space that they can be with you.
Yeah. But I think one of the other reasons that they pick you is because they knew that you would sort of spread the message, the same as me, that they knew I was coming, and I wrote the first two books on them in English. They have a lot of Spanish books about what they were doing, but nobody in the English world knew who Mission Rama was. And I think that may be part of the reason that they wanted me there is to tell the story in the English language.
You got it.
Yeah.
It's that simple. The story is history.
Is
Okay.
Mission Rama still happening?
Not, it's still happening, but Mission Rama was created by the brother of Sisto Paz, whose name is Veronica Paz Wells, and transgendered. And
She.
I actually went to Canada. She's in Toronto to
Mhm.
interview her, and that is and she started he started Mission Rama in Brazil. So I don't know what if Sisto, who is meeting people. By the way, Sisto Paz Wells is still meeting people in Shasta, but the difference is that all of these are in Spanish. So if you don't understand Spanish, they're giving lectures. It's, you may have contact, you may see a UFO, but the whole lecture, unless you have somebody translating for you, and you did, I think, Grant, have
For 5
somebody.
minutes, yeah. She did it for 5 minutes, and then she got involved in the in the event and stopped translating.
It's very difficult for the American public.
Yeah.
And Ricardo used to come to Crestone. He stopped coming. So, but he's in Paraguay, Uruguay. Now I see he's in Egypt. I mean, he's all over the place.
Talk
We
a
did
little bit about Veronica, because that's one of the people that's on Cindy's list to talk to.
Yeah.
Okay, well, first of all, there was a break between Sisto and his brother Charlie. In the early days, when Sisto used to go there were 10 young guys. I have pictures of all of them with all their names. And when they would do the what do you call it? The two, the 2 hours of the 2 days
Yeah.
of mantras of
Yeah.
and all that. And they're in India. They're from India. They're from Tibet. I mean, the mantras they were doing, and I saw the connection to Tibet. That's why I'm looking at the Asian culture right now,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Uh, the uh, the ship actually came down. I mean, this is what Charlie told me. The ship came down. The being said to the boys, "Come on in." In fact, Charlie told me when he walked in the door, he banged his arm against the door, and it was perfectly normal to see the spaceman standing there with these young guys. And this would happen every now and then, and it would be done through automatic writing. And so there was a breakage between Veronica and Sisto in that the cultural situation with transgender, because Charlie became Veronica and got married, and Charlie lives in Canada in uh, Scarborough. I don't know if upper Toronto.
Yeah.
And so I needed to speak. I had spoken to Sisto. Sisto's beautiful. He
Yeah.
tells you everything. He tells you that he met Axel. Axel is from Ganymede, which I think is one of the moons of Jupiter. They don't all come from Apu. Apu is 4 light years away in Alpha Centauri, but the Paz brothers met people from Ganymede from other places, and they had dark hair, dark curly hair. They're not all blonde, blue-eyed like we get, If Clifford Stone is telling me he has a first aid manual to 57 different races, why are we shoving them all into little boxes of Nordics? They're not all Nordics.
Yeah.
So, Axel, he was telling me what Axel told him, who Axel was. So I had to speak to his brother. So here's Tom again, who drives me 2,500 miles to Canada. And I interview Charlie, who is Veronica Paz Wells. But I had to, again, this is where it costs money. All the driving, I had to rent a room to film Charlie. I had to rent a room in a hotel. I rented a room in a hotel. It's on my YouTube channel. Go to look, be a subscriber on my YouTube channel. It has Veronica Paz Wells. What I didn't expect is that she brought along a girl, a young girl. And I said, "Why are you bringing this girl?" And she said, "Because this girl was in the forest near Scarborough when, what's his name? Godar, who's the other Apunian, came down and was talking to me, and she saw him bend over because he's also 10 foot tall, only he has a white robe, and talked to me. So I said to the girl, "Did you actually see this? You know me, I'm a reporter." I said, "What did you see?" She said, and she explained to me. And this happened to me in Atacama, so I know this works this way. She said they were walking and a orange ball, which they in Spanish they call una canepola, an orange ball came floating through the forest, and she said she saw it there because it's a probe, and she said that what's her name? Veronica went into the forest and she left the girl and she saw Godard come down, bend over and talk to her. Now, when I was in the Atacama Desert with Rob Freeman, you must know Rob Freeman, Grant Cameron.
Yep.
You
Yep.
must know him. Trying to film a UFO, I took Fernando, who lives in Mexico City, who I know really well. He's the right hand man for Ricardo, and I said, "You stay here because that UFO is going to come around 9:10, 9 o'clock." I said, "At least Rob gets to film something, and you stay there and you use the lasers so he gets to film it." But what happened instead? And that's why I'm not going to do this anymore. I got a feeling I should be walking in the forest, so I started taking off walking in the forest. I didn't know where I was walking. This is in the Atacama Desert, and then the Canepula came, the orange ball,
Oh.
and Fernando saw it and followed it down. And I find myself, Fernando in front of me in the forest. I said, "What are you doing here?" He said, I followed the he said, "I followed the Canepula." I said, "There was an orb." I said, "You left Rob Freeman. He's never going to film anything. Why did you do that?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Because," he said, "I've learned that when they send the probe, you just follow." And we were in a clearing where I was positive there was going to be a landing.
Huh.
So do these things happen? Yeah, but you got to be willing to camp overnight. You got to be willing to use
Yeah.
chemical toilets. There's no, I mean, you can eat. They sometimes bring food with them, but and it was so hot during the day that ambulances took away people, and it was so cold during the night that I was dying. I had 5 coats on. I had coats and alpaca thing
That is
in
cool.
the Atacama Desert. I've been through that. I did it. I know what happens. I know you can have contact. I know this is happening, but I mean, you do it a couple of times and you're over it. It's like
Yeah.
you're over
Yeah.
it. But that's the Canepolis story, Grant. And Cindy, go on my YouTube because you'll see Veronica talk. She was very sweet. I loved it that she could collaborate the story. But they I don't know if they're speaking to each other now, but in that culture, it's very difficult to have a transgender.
And she wrote a book, right?
Yes, and I forgot what it was, but it's in my interview. Yes, of detailed things of these meetings with these extraterrestrials. Yes, I
Yeah.
mean it's common for these people.
Yeah. Yeah. She was sick. Apparently she had fourth stage cancer or something, and then she
Yeah,
suddenly got cured or something.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I we'll try to interview if you give Cindy the contact. We'll maybe contact her and
Well, the only contact I had, I don't know what kind of contact. I don't have contact anymore, except I might have an email. I don't have a telephone number or anything because I
yeah.
don't know if she's still in Scarborough.
I think she is. Yeah, I think she is.
You think she is?
As far as I know, yeah. So
You're in
she's an
Canada.
interesting one that really hasn't spoken except to you. I mean, she's sort of like,
Well, this
and she
this
did
is
write a
another
book about it. So
this is another thing. They really trust me. I'm not going to print stuff. I'm not going to make judgments. All my interviews are word for word. I ask a question and I ask good questions and they give me an answer. And that's it. I don't make any judgments. I don't know what's going on. That she does trust me and they
yeah,
all did. And thank God I
yeah,
did my
good.
job there. But now I'm in Asia.
Well,
So
what's it?
when I
Maybe
go
Cindy.
into when I
Go
go
ahead.
into YouTube, just type in Veronica.
Veronica Paz Wells interview with Paula Harris.
How do you spell Poswell?
Paz and then Wells, Wells.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, why is it called Mission Rama?
You have to ask them that. I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's got to do with love, I think, is part of it. I can't I put it in my book. I can't remember what they and then some of them spell Rama differently without the H. It's kind of
Well, it becomes a cult, and that's one of the problems, when you
yeah,
have just like Figu became a cult around Billy Meyer, and I had to go through Figu. I had to go to see Billy. They controlled everything I did. They told me I couldn't talk to him. So it's I wouldn't even look at that. But you might have contact information, Grant, for Enrique Villanueva, and he's in California already, and she could talk to him.
Yeah, I've got his in. Well, what do you think? You've done this for a number of years. What's the case that impressed you the most?
Well, the case is Colonel Carso.
Okay.
I mean, the guy worked on alien technology in 1963, talked to Bobby Kennedy, and had contact. What else do you want? I mean, it's like he's
But you
not.
had other, like you had the Zendra events, and then you had your one with the all these names are escaping me. The guy that worked for the government, with the
Oh, Clark
photo in the
McClellan or,
mirror and
or
stuff.
Michael Wolff.
Michael Wolff, yeah. Like you've met some pretty wild stories in your time. That's why I was
Well, no, at that time I was writing for a magazine, and they just sent me places, and I go and I would fly on the little TWA planes, and those days it was TWA, and I'd fly in from Italy, and like they'd have to balance us. There's only four seats.
yeah.
I went through a lot. I went through a lot to get to Michael Wolff, Hartford, Connecticut. I was the only one that interviewed him
Wow.
with Adriano the first time, but then I went three times. Yeah, no, he and Uri Geller, I think, were total hybrids. He had no, what do you call it, irises, the circle.
Michael Wolff?
Yeah,
Oh,
Pupil.
was a hybrid. He was a hybrid. He basically said he came from Altair 4. He said that he had contact with, and he had a little friend named Colta that the CIA recruited him. He was telling the truth the whole time. He said he was in Fellini's movie 8.5, and I'm seeing pictures of him and Fellini in his apartment, and I would know Fellini. And here's Michael and Fellini. Everything he was saying as a secret agent, and that he was part of Stubble Blind's remote viewing group. And he's telling me, and I knew, see, I know all the backgrounds of this. I knew that they had remote viewing. And then he was also involved with the Admiral Inman. So I'm going, oh my God, I know all these people because I know who the insiders are. And this guy is not lying, but he was dying of pancreatic cancer.
Hmm.
So he was in bed the whole time. So this is sad. This is sad. I didn't ever get a chance to say goodbye to Colonel Corsa ever.
yeah.
So I went there when Michael was dying to say goodbye to him. And there was a Indian doctor that was taking care of him. And doctor left, and Michael looked at me and he said, "You can't catch cancer with a kiss." I'll never forget that. And then he asked me what I wanted, and I said, "I want your doctor scrubs." And I took one of his doctor scrubs that has holes from cigarette, um, what do you call it?
Burns, yeah.
Cigarette butts.
Irons.
Burns.
Oh my God. And I had that for the longest time to remind me of him because then he died in 2000. And Colonel Corso gave me his necktie and his briefcase. So
Wow.
I feel like I have a museum here of all the beautiful people that I call the whistle. I don't even know why Washington is looking at one pilot when we've had Robert Dean. In fact, Robert Dean, I took his cigar. But Robert Dean worked at NATO, Sergeant Major Robert Dean. He said that when he worked in Brussels, and I was with him because he came to my apartment in Rome with Marcia, and I gave them my bedroom. So he was able to talk about during the Cold War how we almost started World War III. People don't understand. This is a matter of national security. If the Russians think that's our stuff and we think that's their stuff, we're going to start throwing bombs at each other.
Yeah.
Instead of talking about it, Robert Dean said that. He said, I saw the pictures of the UFOs. It started almost World War III because the Russians thought it was ours and we thought it was the Russians. And if you want to play the national security card, I think that's a good way to open this subject up. Even though they're not dangerous, there's not going to be an alien invasion. I mean, it's ridiculous. The stuff I'm hearing is just so stupid. It's not logical.
Yeah.
It's not logical. And when I'm down in Mexico City and I see the footage, the current footage, and I see a UFO over Israel, and then it's being shot at, and they can't get to the force field around it, I'm going, the Americans aren't knowing that over Ukraine, Israel, and Russia, there's sightings all the time, and they're not on vacation.
Yeah.
And it's being seen in China, the footage out of China that I saw. So the thing is that yes, we have this going on all the time. It's messages from the cosmos. We are a bunch of crazy kids on this planet. And the only way you're going to have like Antarel come and say hi to you is if you could unite. I mean, he gave me a job. He was like, they said, what is he like? I said, he's like a military guy. I said, even though the second time I saw him, he had a white bicycle suit, he had long, beautiful hair, his eyes were almond. But they're here for a reason. It's not because they're having fun.
Yeah.
So what is this? What kind of game are we playing in the UFO community? That's why I can't do a lot of these. This is not a hobby. This is not Disneyland on steroids. This is darn serious. And my theory, and Cindy, I'm going to tell you this because you'll be working with me, is if all the researchers that had ever gotten together in the first place, we would have solved this puzzle. But it's become a cottage industry. It's about money. It's about fame. It's about fortune. It's about podcasts. It's about all this other stuff. And the world is going crazy. The planet is going crazy.
That's right.
And I'm thinking, who can I work with to make some kind of difference? Now it's that I'm going towards Japan and Asia, even Korea, even South Korea. I've been there. There's a lot of people interested. Taiwan. I mean, that culture knows there's a spiritual message, and you don't have to convince them of that. They're not worried about alien invasion. That's not the first thing they say to you. Oh, yeah, let's, well, like, what are you going to do? Go under your desks? He's like, come on, people. He's like, they take your soul. I mean, I've heard that from my colleagues. They came here to harvest your soul. Why would they want your soul?
Yeah.
Go to an evolved planet. Go get their souls.
Yeah.
Go to a beautiful, evolved, grown-up planet. We come to this soul, these souls. I mean, the reasoning is so insane that I sit there go, thank God I knew Clifford Stone. Thank God I knew Michael Wolff. Thank God I knew Colonel Corso and all the whistleblowers that really were insiders were heroes for me. So, I'm available to answer questions, but my Crestone Conference on August 24th, I'm going to give some data. I'm going to talk about the early days, especially. But I really want to switch over to consciousness because it's all connected. And Grant, you're Mr. All Connected. I mean, near-death experiences, telepathic tapes, telepathy, paranormal, ghosts, the whole entire salad bowl of
But it's all connected. That's the thing. It's like,
Yeah. It's all connected.
it's all, and I always been interested in weird stories, and then I suddenly realized the weird stories is what's going to tell you the things that you've got wrong in understanding the world. That it's much more complex than we think it is, and it's following the stuff that's outside the bell curve. That's not normal. Everybody wants to do the normal stuff, but that doesn't give you the answers. That just tells you the same things all over. Any questions you have, Cindy, for Paula? And what are you going to make Cindy do there? Is she going to be in
No,
charge of-
Cindy is basically helping me as a volunteer.
Administration.
Because with 3 speakers, there's no room to add anybody else, and
Yeah,
it's not
no,
gonna
but I'm saying I just wanted to, if you're going
No,
to work hard.
she's administration, but she's also Asian. So for me, when she contacted me and told me her background, and the fact that I have an Asian assistant from China, who, by the way, was going to work with UFOs, so he went to Cambridge to get a PhD in divinity, and I said that's not the way to do it. But he wants to be legitimate working with UFOs because
Yeah.
our field is so much of a circus. Sometimes they don't take you seriously. So he wanted a degree. He said, "How can I get a degree in this?"
There isn't one.
There could be one though. Rice University, in its department, and that's where all my stuff is, and Jock's stuff and John Mack's stuff. Has it's called the Archives of the Impossible. That's where our stuff is.
Hmm.
But unfortunately or fortunately, it's in the Department of Religious Studies.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's the only place they could put it. I think it should be in the humanities.
Yeah.
Paranormal humanity.
Yeah, and the humanities, the humanities could be, well, look, the cosmic messages, I think, are beautiful.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, isn't that philosophy? And isn't that philosophy, humanities, my anything. In the humanities, there's plenty history, there's plenty of room for ufology. And right now, with Michael Sala's Exopolitics Institute, that's the only way I can literally teach and demand that they write essays. I give them all the information. And I say, write an essay on everything you know, and they go, "Oh my God." They always say, "Oh my God, is this real?" And I say, "Well, what do you think?"
Yeah.
Since let me ask a question of Cindy. Don't you think that Paula is doing pretty good for 65 years old, that she's still plugging away and
65, I'm 80.
but that's the thing is you're old, I'm old, and the thing is this is something you don't give up. You just keep going because you realize the importance of the message. I mean, you're still extremely spry and running around the world at 80 years old. Most people are sitting in a with
Rocking
their
chair.
walker and in front of a TV.
Yeah. Yeah. Truly.
That's amazing, Paula. You're this well off in terms of the ability to do stuff at your age and just you know building, and continuing to spread the message. I applaud you for that.
Well, you too, Grant.
Yeah,
Yeah, Grant. I mean, what choice do we have?
yeah.
Yeah.
But in every other career, they sort of retire. They don't want to do it anymore. Whereas you and I, it's like we're running out of time. We got to get this done, get that done, and we've got all sorts of. It's just the inspiring thing that we may be a cult in terms of we're like crazy about the subject, but we're working for humanity. We're working to try to get out the message, which is this oneness and the fact that everything's conscious and that you control your own world and that we've got to change things and this sort of stuff. So I think we make a good team in terms of setting an example for people like Cindy, who've just gotten sort of into the public aspect of it, in terms of trying to get, and she's consumed, which is weird because she hasn't really had a direct sighting.
Yeah.
She's consumed with this thing, and she's
No.
got all these lists. She wants to interview these people, and she's very extremely interested. And same thing where the family's supportive, but nobody's really.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Everybody's asleep.
Cindy, I was very close with John Mack. There was another person that just I adored that guy. I was very close, and I had to be the interpreter in Florence for his last speech. I didn't know it would be his last speech, but he said it's a knowing. And that's the first
It's a
time
knowing. Yeah.
I ever heard that. He said it isn't like you can do a mathematical equation and go there.
Yeah.
And don't try to convince anybody. I've never convinced anybody of anything.
Yeah, yeah,
This is not religion. You're not trying to convert anybody.
yeah.
I think you know,
Yeah.
period.
Hmm.
Just know this is real.
Yeah. It's a knowing.
Yeah, it's a knowing. And I think you're so lucky that in your DNA you have this knowing. You just know.
Yeah.
Starseed.
Yeah, yeah, but that gets to the new age. I don't like all these. I mean, when I go to conferences and you're one kind of star seed, but there's some crazy star seeds too out there that that talk about their hybrids kids going to school and all this. I mean, it gets crazy.
Well,
Yeah, don't put a label on yourself. I'd say that you were an evolved person that had like a Renaissance view of the world. You have a 360 view of the world. You have an all-inclusive view of the world, and you don't come from planet Earth.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's why I see myself, for lack of better words, as a starseed because I just know that this is not my first go around, and I don't feel like Earth is my home. I just feel like I've lived elsewhere. And there must be a reason why I chose to incarnate in this time frame. So I want to make my time worthwhile. So I think people like us are old souls. We've been around.
Yes, yes, yes,
Awakened,
because
awakened souls. Yeah.
yeah, actually, we could be from the Earth old soul too. Like when I did the only regression, it was I can tell you this story. God, got so many stories. Uh, 1980, I did my first regression past life,
Yeah.
and I saw myself in Greece as I saw myself as some kind of priestess in Greece,
Okay.
and then I saw that I was buried alive.
Ooh.
They went through this whole thing. So then we came back to Boulder and they were going to do it again because the people that were with me said, we must have been with you. And so they put me under one guy that was really good because it's really hard to put me under hypnosis anymore. Put me under hypnosis and I saw Atlantis.
Oh.
Wow.
And I saw glass, and my whole house is glass. I have no wood. I have glass and brass. I have all crystal in my house. Even my table, everything's glass. And I saw fireballs coming down from the sky, and the men and the young men were missing. There was only women and old men and children. And I saw these fireballs. At that minute, I was in an apartment. They were playing football outside, and the football crashed through my window at that very minute. And
Wow.
I couldn't tell the difference of where I was in Atlantis or what had happened. So
Wow.
I came out of the hypnosis with nausea and I didn't know where I was and they had broken my window in 50 million pieces. Later on, years later, I went to Delphi in Greece with a tour, a kids tour, kids tour. And I'm walking around, like I always am, half asleep. I never know what's going on. And and I go to a place, a temple that's fully white temple that's fully and intact. And there is a big bowl, and they're telling me that the oracle, and I thought the oracle, I was stupid. I thought the oracle was a crystal ball. And they told me the oracle was a woman that would sniff these fumes and
Sense.
be able to tell the future.
Yeah.
And I got really nervous because my thought was, I've been here before. And I had a boyfriend at the time and he thought it was funny. He said, go and pose near that thing and everything. And I was totally confused. I kept walking around Delphi thinking, I'm confused, I'm confused. I get on the bus and the tour guide, who's Greek, who did not say one word to me during the whole entire tour, came up and said to me, you have been here before. You got too many people around you and you must return alone.
Wow. Wow.
This is the tour guide who's Greek. And I'm going, oh, yeah, because I get very confused because this is not the way I was brought up. I don't know. Were you brought up like this? With all these extra things that
No.
you have to put in your toolbox? I want it. I want it cut and dry. I want the answers. I don't want any deviation. Like, and then you're telling me I've been here before and I got too many people always around me and I got to come alone. So have I been back to Delphi? No, I haven't been back to Delphi, but these are answers to the questions. So Cindy, I don't know, I think Grant agrees with me. If you have a question, ask the universe and you'll get your answer
Yeah.
Okay. Before I go to sleep.
anytime. Even
Yeah, because it does follow you around. Even like the one part that we didn't get into was your interpreter in 2015. It followed him home. He had all sorts of sightings of Antarel and his
yeah, but I
family.
I I don't I'm not going to aspire to that.
No, but I
Antarel does
mean, it
not
does.
come in your house. No, Antarel does not come in your house. Antarel gave a message that sometimes people interpret things, and I do not. I will not support that. Antarel, I've seen Antarel twice, and I felt him in Yungai because I heard a bullhorn thing, and I said, "Oh my God, he's here!" And I was under the mountain. No, if Antarel will not follow you home, he's not. He why would he? To
Well,
do what?
it's this hitchhiking effect that it's
Not not not
like with your
Antarel.
with the cell phone. Same thing with cell phone. His windshield wipers are on his car, and his wife was bugging him,
Yes,
like
yes,
tell your
yes,
Martians
yeah,
to leave my car alone and this sort of stuff
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
the thing is that it's not just one experience and it goes away. Like it was at the hotel, it was at the
Oh
pool.
yeah,
Like
no,
it just follows you around.
the paranormal part. I had an assistant, David Garcia, that his sunroof would go in and out, and he was with me in Shasta with you, and his sunroof would go in and out by itself. But as far as Antarel or any alien coming into your house, they're not going to do that. That is, there's no reason for them to do that. And that I think that basically what to make you special. I mean, he would be here all the time. No, it was a one-shot deal. They want you to do something, you do it, then they go back. I don't even call on Antarel. I can feel sometimes if I'm in the desert or in the time that I told you I was in Yungay and I heard the same kind of bullhorn thing. And I said, uh-oh, but I wasn't looking for it. I can't interpret that. That could be your grandmother who's a ghost, because you could be living in your house and you're interpreting it as alien and it isn't. Your grandmother passed over or your friend. I have so many friends that have passed. I mean, I wonder about Clifford if he's giving me messages, and it's not alien. It's not. ETs have a certain way of doing things and they don't hang around. And you can't call on them when you feel like it. That's why I don't believe on aliens on demand. It's like the whole agenda is in their hands.
Yeah.
If they want to talk to you or talk through you, they will. If they don't, they won't. They won't do it. And so, in a way, you're seeing me have respect for them that way. Um, you know, if I'm supposed to do something, I'll get a message, but Antonella will not come around in my house and walk around and do. I mean, that gets.
They have better things to do.
Yeah, but I mean, it could be a spirit because I'm convinced that some of the abduction situations are not ETs. They're entities. I believe you, even in your house right now, you could have a couple of entities, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know who they are, but they're not ET. They whisper in your ear. Maybe it's your grandmother, your in your case, Grant, I'm sure it's Wilbur Smith.
Yeah.
It's Wilbur Smith. But you have to look at it as much more complex,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
much more complex than a black and white thing.
Yeah.
And just like you and I are soulmates in that we're trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And that's the basic agenda for me. I just want to know.
yeah. I remember in one of the podcasts, Grant has said one of the ETs told the contactee that they are from the realm that we call the afterlife. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the idea. Whitley Strieber's wife said the same thing. She said, when she read all the letters from communion, she said, Whitley, whatever we're dealing with has something to do with death. And it's sort of like you'll hear, dead people showing up when during events and stuff like that. And it's like a higher vibration. So the dead people will be at a higher vibration, the beings will be at a higher. That's what the whole Mission Rama thing is about, is you raise your vibration, they lower your vibration, you meet in between. I think that's the idea of the Zendra thing.
Well, I had an experience like that when Clifford Stone asked me to sleep in his son's room who had died.
Yeah.
I was going, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. His son Robert died in a motorcycle accident, and at that time, that's why Clifford came out and spoke, because he thought that it was on purpose, and it was really an accident. And so I went to sleep in his bedroom upstairs in Clifford's house, but Clifford told me before I did that the ETs let him see his son and let him hug his son.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I said, how could they do that? Clifford's really Catholic. He wouldn't eat meat on Friday.
Yeah.
So I thought, how can they do that?
Yeah.
How can they have you see your son whole and entire and hug him? And Clifford said, yeah, he said, as a, uh, because he said, I'm very involved with, and his Corona was his ET. He said they let me see my son, and of course I was freaking out. I was sleeping in the bedroom. I go, I don't want to see anything. You don't have to bring me any kind of. I don't. It's okay. I believe you. You don't have to do anything. So the near death thing is a lot of contactees see their families, and I'm trying to figure out how that works, except that there are no barriers.
Yeah.
That goes back to exactly what in one of Grant's podcasts was saying, like I just mentioned, that they're from the realm that we call the afterlife. To me, that makes sense because this is just a container, right? It's temporarily. Our consciousness, our soul is eternal. It's got to go somewhere, and it goes to the afterlife where it sounds like the ETs resides, the ones that are spiritually advanced that do not require a body.
Yeah,
That's my
it's that
guess.
concept of remember who you actually are. You're not the puppet on the stage. You're the etheric being, the spark of God. And the next time you may play Antarel with work with Antarel, or where we may be working with the beings in terms of raising consciousness, that you're doing this, I'm doing that. Next time you play the alien, I'll be the human. And it could be, you never know. It's just, you got to remember that you are the etheric being and not the puppet. We always get confused that we're the puppet on stage.
Yep.
And or what Anne Strieber said to Whitley as well after she died, she said, Whitley, I am no longer Anne, but I'll always be Anne to you."
Yeah. That makes
Uh,
sense. Total
yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Well, he's at Rice. All his stuff is at Rice University with Jacques, Dr. John Mack, Jacques Vallée, me.
Yeah,
I'm the only woman. Um,
there you go. Well, you made
uh,
some headway then.
yeah, because I'm with all the guys. All my stuff is there. So students, but that's been my dream. If somebody says, Paula, what is your dream? To speak to a university class of 1,000 kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
Because the kid
would Paula, what would you say to someone like Cindy who's just getting into podcasting and talking to people? What advice would you give her?
to follow her heart and follow her gut feeling,
Yep.
because you don't use your brain, don't try to figure things out, just follow what you feel, and you'll go along. If you feel like you don't want to be with certain people, or you don't want to deal with certain things, don't do it, because you're being guided anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
I realize that I worked on instinct. Actually, I asked John Mack about that too. I said, how much of what you do is intuitive and on instinct? And he said 70%.
Wow.
So it's like we're all psychic. We all can
Yeah.
do this.
Yes.
We can all figure it out. We all have different roles. Um, and don't try, and she and I have talked about this, don't try to convince your kids.
Yeah.
Don't it's okay. If there's many lifetimes and they're in third grade, what are you going to do with a third grader?
Yeah.
No, I mean, even people that come up and question you, Grant, why bother? I mean, they got other chances.
Yeah.
They got other chances. Anymore in my old age, I want to hang around with grad school. Though I'm more, grad school is easier on me.
Yeah, yeah. And it comes down to the thing that you came into the world to do something, and what you got to do is figure out why are you here? What's your job? What you're supposed to be doing.
Well, thank you for getting together, and I'm glad you guys are working. See, Cindy, how your life changes. um,
We're going to do a sky watch on August the 1st.
First.
Yeah, and we're in Vancouver. The group is going to get together, the Vancouver. So anybody that's listening here from the Vancouver area, you can contact myself at whitehouseuFO@gmail and attend the Skywatch, because I just moved to Vancouver here. And then coincidentally, Cindy's daughter is getting married just outside the city. And so we're going to link up, and we're going to change the world, right, Cindy?
Yep. Absolutely.
And then Cindy's gonna lead the stargazing on my land in Crestone one night. You were gonna work with that with Cynthia
Okay.
Larson, and that we're only gonna do one night
Okay.
because the Japanese contingent has some cultural things they're doing, which I'm so excited about. I'm just so excited. And for people, there are 20 places still left so go to www.starworks USA and register for the August 22nd through 24th. And Grant, I was going to ask you, if you just did one lecture, would you do May again for me just one time? Because I don't know how they need to hear you. And when we're out in the middle of nowhere like that, and you come in with all the truth of grad school stuff, and
Okay,
it's
we'll talk about it. Yeah, we'll talk
yeah,
about it.
we'll
Just
talk about it because Dessa's going to be with me.
yeah.
Oh, nice.
Desta will be with me in May. So
May
Desta,
2026.
yeah, it's always Labor Day weekend. The only difference is I'm adding Ancient Aliens to it. They're gonna, Aaron Judkins, who's my friend, Dr. Eric Judkins, he's been all over the world in search of Noah's Ark and Göbekli Tepe, and we're going to talk about, Egypt and everything, which I have never been involved in, but a lot of people like it. So anyway, thank you for
Beautiful.
everything,
Thank
guys.
you. And thank you to Cindy. And is it what you thought it was, Cindy, your first
Yeah.
broadcast?
Yeah. Very informative, enlightening. It's, real conversation,
There you go.
meaningful.
And we'll do many more in the future. Thank you, Paula, for all you've done. And I respect you and fantastic work. And let's talk again. Anything you need from me, I'll help you out because I know you're on the right road and we've got to work together.
Yeah.
Yep. And we have to remember that whatever is contacting us wants us to grow up, wants
Yeah.
us to evolve a little bit. And when they watch our news, I don't want to think that we didn't move off we didn't move off the line a little bit, that we still have hope. And the only thing and this Clifford told me, and Michael Wolf, my God, more than Michael, love is the only thing that survives anything.
Yeah.
So if we got the key to it and we get it from all the great masters, the unity of people, that we're all one and love is the only thing that lasts, then why aren't we doing that?
Yeah.
So let's make that the final comment. And I love you, Grant.
I love you too.
I love
I
it.
love,
We
I
love
love
you,
both of
Grant.
you.
Beautiful. Thank you.
All
And
right.
we'll do it again soon.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
Okay. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.